Liam's voice was firm, but full of warmth as he said to Amelia, "I don't just choose you, Amelia. I choose the nights you got up when it was hard. I choose every moment that brought you here. I choose Ethan. I choose our family. Today, tomorrow, and always." The morning rush at the small airport cafe had barely begun when Amelia Rose tied her apron and took a deep breath. Her feet already ached from the early shift, and her hands were rough from constant scrubbing of coffee machines and dishes. She glanced at the clock, removed her apron and wiped her brow with the back of her hand. She moved behind the counter, the scent of fresh coffee swirling around her like a familiar lullaby. Amelia, now 28, had worked this job for nearly 3 years. It was not glamorous, but it put food on the table and paid rent for the modest apartment she shared with her 5-year-old son, Ethan. He was her light, her reason to keep going. "Large cappuccino, no sugar," a voice called out. Amelia smiled, already halfway through making it. She had memorized the regulars, but as she handed the cup over and looked up, her breath caught. Across the terminal near Gate 18, a man sat alone with a laptop and a black leather duffel bag at his feet. She froze. Her heart skipped a beat, then raced. Liam Miller, her first love. He was staring at his screen, fingers paused mid-typing. His hair was neatly styled, suit crisp, presence commanding, but she would have recognized him anywhere, even after a decade. He had been the boy who made her laugh on rainy days, who read poetry in a terrible British accent, who once stayed up all night just to walk her home. Liam had been the entire sky of her youth. Amelia's instinct was to look away. Her hand shot up to tuck a stray strand behind her ear, only to remember her hair was in a messy bun. Her uniform was wrinkled from the morning rush, faint coffee stains on the hem of her apron. She looked down at her worn sneakers. Maybe if she kept her distance, he would not recognize her. 10 years had passed. People change. She surely had. She turned quickly, pretending to clean the counter, heart thudding. What would he think if he saw her like this? A single mom barely scraping by in a faded uniform. But fate had other plans. An elderly man near the boarding area dropped his canvas tote bag. Its contents, magazines, a pill bottle, snacks scattered across the floor. Amelia didn't hesitate. She rushed over and knelt beside him. "Here, let me help you," she said gently, gathering the items and slipping them back into the bag. And that was the moment. As she looked up to hand the man his things, her eyes met Liam's. Time froze. Liam blinked. His hands dropped from the keyboard. The terminal noise faded as his gaze locked on hers. That face, those eyes. He would never forget them. For 10 years he had carried that image. The eyes that lit up when she spoke of dreams. The quiet strength they held when life got hard. And here they were again, still familiar, now heavier. "Amelia," he whispered, barely audible, but she was already standing, heart pounding, avoiding his gaze. She nodded to the old man and turned away, walking briskly back toward the cafe, hands trembling. Behind her, Liam remained frozen, the laptop forgotten. He remembered it all, the summer nights on campus, the tears, the laughter, the dreams they built together. She had been his anchor when he nearly flunked freshman year. His parents never approved of her, said she lacked ambition, came from the wrong kind of family. He had fought them, but when the scholarship to study overseas came, he had no choice. He left, no goodbye, just gone. She waited. He never wrote. Eventually, she stopped hoping. That summer, Amelia cried until her chest ached. Then, little by little, she learned to live without him. And now, 10 years later, same airport, same city, different lives. And yet, in a single glance, everything they buried rushed back. Unspoken, unfinished, undeniable. Liam took a slow breath, then stepped toward the cafe. He found Amelia behind the counter wiping down a tray, her expression tired but focused. She looked up and saw him. For a moment, neither of them said a word. "Hi," he said gently. Amelia nodded. "Hi. I was hoping we could talk if you have a minute." She glanced around. "That's okay." They sat at a small table near the window, away from the noise of travelers rushing past. The tension between them was clear, but there was something softer beneath it, a quiet familiarity, a shared history that neither had forgotten. "It's really been 10 years, Liam said. "It has," Amelia replied, her voice low. He studied her face. She looked older, worn in ways that spoke of struggle. but stronger too, like someone who had endured more than most and kept standing. "So, how have you been?" he asked. Amelia hesitated, then took a sip of her lukewarm coffee. "I've been doing great. I work and I have a son, Ethan. He's 5. It's just the two of us." Liam blinked. "You're a mom?" She nodded. "Yes, I am. I work here in the mornings, clean offices at night. It's not easy, but we manage." There was no resentment in her voice, only quiet acceptance. She didn't mention Ethan's father, and Liam didn't press. "I'm not surprised you're still standing," he said. "You were always the strongest person I knew." She looked down, unsure how to take the compliment. Liam wanted to ask more, but something stopped him. Instead, he noticed her attention shift when an older man near the terminal stumbled, dropping a plastic bag. Amelia stood up quickly, walked over and knelt to help him. She handed him the items with a kind smile, then opened her lunch container and gave him half of her sandwich. Liam watched from where he sat. From the way she tucked her meal away afterward, he guessed it might have been all she had. When she returned, he said nothing, but something in him shifted. "You haven't changed," he said. "You still think of others before yourself." "I don't know how else to be," she replied with a small smile. A few minutes later, Liam checked his phone. His flight was boarding. "I have to go," he said, standing reluctantly. "Of course," Amelia said, her voice calm. He paused. "Can I give you my card, just in case?" She nodded and took it without a word. As he walked away, he turned once more. She was already behind the counter again, tying her apron, fading back into the background. But she didn't fade from his mind. Days passed. Amelia returned to her routine. Work, Ethan, sleep, repeat. Then came a knock on the door. Her landlord stood with a scowl. "You're behind again. I can't wait any longer. You need to be out by tomorrow." "Please," Amelia begged. "I just need a few more days." He shook his head. "I've given you too many chances." When the door slammed shut, Amelia leaned against it, tears welling in her eyes. She looked over at Ethan, playing quietly with his worn coloring book. That night, she sat at the edge of their small bed, trying to stay strong. Then her phone buzzed. "Liam Miller, I've been thinking about you and Ethan. I know it's sudden, but are you okay?" She stared at the message for a long time, unsure how to respond. The next morning, Amelia and Ethan stood on the sidewalk with a single suitcase and his stuffed rabbit. Her heart felt heavy, but she had no choice. A black SUV pulled up, the window rolled down, and Liam stepped out. He saw the bags, Ethan clutching her hand, the quiet panic in her eyes. "Come stay with me," he said, "just for a few days, until you figure things out. I'm not offering charity, just help from a friend." Amelia looked at Ethan, then at the sidewalk beneath her feet. Her pride wavered, but her son came first. She nodded slowly. "Just for a few days," she whispered. Liam smiled. "That's all I ask." And together, they got into the car, not knowing what would come next, only that they didn't have to face it alone. The first morning at Liam's house was quiet, almost too quiet for Amelia. She had barely slept the night before, too tense in the guest room with Ethan curled beside her. The house was beautiful, modern, yet warm, with sunlight pouring in through tall windows. It felt like another world. She kept waiting for someone to tell her they didn't belong. But by 6 a.m., Amelia was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, quietly making scrambled eggs and toast. She moved carefully, trying not to wake anyone, but still making enough for 3. Old habits, she supposed. Liam came down the stairs a bit later, surprised to find her already cooking. "I hope you don't mind," she said quickly, brushing flour from her hands. "Ethan's used to breakfast first thing." "I don't mind at all," he replied, smiling. "Smells better than anything I've made in weeks." As the days passed, Liam watched the rhythms of Amelia's life unfold in his home. She rose early, packed snacks for Ethan, did laundry with music playing softly in the background, and read bedtime stories with voices and sound effects that made Ethan giggle uncontrollably. He noticed how she taught Ethan to write his name with such patience, how she praised his drawings as if they were museum-worthy, how when she thought no one was looking, she closed her eyes for just a second longer, exhausted but holding everything together. Ethan, meanwhile, had taken a strong liking to Liam. He followed him around the house, peppering him with questions. Do you really have 100 people working for you? What's a CEO? Can I be one if I still sleep with my dinosaur? Liam answered every question like it was the most important one in the world. To Amelia's surprise, Liam did not just let them stay. He quietly made their stay easier. One afternoon, she returned from a walk with Ethan to find the guest room rearranged. A small shelf now held children's books. A soft lamp glowed in the corner. In the kitchen, there was almond milk for Ethan and vegetarian dishes. Amelia hadn't even mentioned she liked. She stared at the new addition, speechless. He never brought it up. He just did it. One evening, as the autumn wind picked up outside, Ethan grew quiet during dinner. His cheeks were flushed, and Amelia immediately knew something was wrong. By midnight, he was burning with fever. Amelia panicked. She paced the hallway, wet cloths pressed to Ethan's forehead, whispering soothing words through trembling lips. Liam was there in an instant. He sat beside her on the bed, checking Ethan's temperature, calling the family doctor, reassuring her with quiet confidence. "It's going to be okay," he said. "We'll take care of him together." Together. That word wrapped around her like a blanket. All night they took turns changing the cloths, keeping Ethan hydrated, whispering stories to calm him. Amelia's heart pounded with fear, but Liam never left her side. By dawn, Ethan's fever finally broke. The little boy drifted into a deep sleep, chest rising and falling peacefully. Amelia sat beside the bed, hair messy, eyes swollen from worry. Her hands were still holding a damp cloth when she turned to Liam. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice raw, "for being here when I was scared the most." Liam looked at her, and something shifted in his chest. It was not just gratitude in her voice. It was trust, and in her eyes he saw the Amelia he had once loved, only now stronger, fiercer, weathered by life, but unbroken. He realized then that it had never really faded. Not the way she made him feel, not the way she saw the world, and especially not the way she held her child with every ounce of love she had. He had left once, but now, sitting in the quiet of the early morning light, he knew he did not want to leave again. The weekend brought a softness to the air, the kind that made everything feel lighter. Liam suggested a small picnic, something simple and outdoors. Amelia hesitated at first, unsure if it was too much or too soon. But Ethan's eyes lit up at the idea, and that was all the convincing she needed. They drove out to a quiet park beyond the city. The leaves had begun to turn, fluttering gently from the trees as if nature itself was slowing down to take a breath. Liam laid out a blanket while Amelia unpacked sandwiches, fruit and cookies Ethan had picked out. Ethan ran ahead, chasing leaves and pretending he was a superhero. Amelia sat at the blanket's edge, her legs crossed, her hair blowing gently in the wind. Liam sat beside her, close, but not too close. There was a calm between them that felt earned, fragile yet natural. After they ate, Ethan pulled something from his little backpack. It was a folded piece of paper with crayon marks peeking out the sides. "I made this," he said, holding it out to Liam with pride. Liam took it carefully and opened it. The drawing was simple, 3 stick figures under a bright yellow sun. One tall, one with long hair, and one small, all holding hands. Above them were the words written in blocky letters. "Mommy, me and my CEO dad." Liam looked up, surprised. Amelia's cheeks flushed. She reached out quickly, taking the paper back with a small smile. "He just likes the idea of you being important," she said. "You know how kids are." Liam chuckled, but noticed how she folded the drawing slowly and slipped it into her bag instead of tossing it away. That evening, after Ethan was asleep, Liam found Amelia at the kitchen table. The room was dim except for the light above the stove. Her fingers curled around a mug of tea, her gaze far away. He sat across from her. "I've been thinking," he said quietly. "You have experience, Amelia. You're smart, organized. I think you'd be great at the company. I could find something flexible. Part-time, maybe." She didn't answer right away. Then she looked at him with a sad smile. "I appreciate it, Liam, but I can't." "Why not?" "Because it wouldn't feel like a real job. It would feel like a debt, like something I didn't earn." He leaned back, surprised. "It's not charity. It's because I believe in you. And that's exactly why I can't take it," she said. "I need to stand on my own, even if it's harder." He respected her answer. though it left a strange ache in his chest. Later that night, Liam returned to the kitchen. Amelia was still there, staring out the window, lost in thought. "I need to say something," he said. She turned to him slowly. "I've had relationships over the years. Some that lasted, some that didn't, but none of them ever felt real. Not like it did with you. Since the day you left, I haven't truly loved anyone else. Not like I loved you." Her breath caught. Tears welled in her eyes but didn't fall. "You don't have to say anything," he added. But she did. "Liam," she said softly, "I'm not that girl anymore. The one who laughed easily and dreamed big. I'm tired. I'm a mother. I've made mistakes. I've been left, lied to, broken." He moved to respond, but she shook her head. "It scares me, Liam, because when I look at you, it feels safe again, and I don't know if I can trust that. I don't know if I can trust myself." She stood, cup in hand, and walked quietly down the hallway toward the guest room. Liam remained at the table, the air thick with everything unsaid. He had opened his heart. She had opened her wounds. And somewhere in the middle of all that, something real had begun to stir. In the weeks that followed, a quiet rhythm began to form inside Liam's home. He never pushed, never demanded anything from Amelia. He simply showed up. Whether it was helping Ethan with his reading, making Amelia tea when she looked tired, or giving them space when they needed it. Liam was there, steady, present. Amelia found herself smiling more, laughing even. At first it felt foreign, like trying on someone else's clothes, but each passing day made it feel like her own again. She cooked meals with Liam. They took Ethan to the library and the park. Liam let Ethan wear one of his ties to look like a real CEO, and Amelia had to hold back tears, watching her son beam with pride. They were not perfect, but something about it felt real. Amelia, who had lived in survival mode for so long, began to breathe, to trust, to hope. One crisp afternoon, she stood in the backyard, hanging Ethan's tiny clothes on a line. Liam had installed just for her. The breeze danced through her hair, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to picture a future that was not grey and full of fear. She went inside to check on Ethan, who was building a fort. In the living room with Liam, the laughter echoing through the house made her heart swell. Just as she reached for her phone to take a photo, the doorbell rang. She opened the front door, still smiling, and froze. Standing there holding a wrinkled baseball cap in his hands was Mark. Her breath left her body. He looked thinner than she remembered. Older, worn, but the eyes were the same. Cold, calculating, far too familiar. "Hi, Amy," he said, voice low. Her fingers tightened around the doorframe. "What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to stay calm. "I've been thinking about you." "About the boy," he said, glancing past her shoulder. "I know I made mistakes, but I've changed. I've got a job. I want to see my son." She shook her head slowly, disoriented. "You don't get to show up and ask to play father." "I'm not here to fight," he replied. "I just want a chance." "Please, Amelia, let me meet him. I deserve that much." Behind her, Liam's voice floated from the hallway, calling Ethan to wash his hands for dinner. Amelia stepped outside and closed the door behind her. "He doesn't know you exist," she said, voice trembling. "He doesn't need to. He has a right to know who I am," Mark snapped. "I'm his father. You were never there." "Not once. I raised him alone. I protected him." Mark's tone softened again, trying to manipulate her like he used to. "I just want to do the right thing now. That's all." She stared at him. Her mind raced. Ethan, Liam, this fragile piece she had found. All of it could shatter in an instant. "If Liam sees you, if Ethan sees you—" "They don't have to," Mark interrupted. "We can talk. Just you and me. Think about it, Amelia." He turned and walked away, disappearing down the quiet street. She stood frozen on the porch long after he was gone. Inside, laughter continued. Ethan was giggling. Liam was pretending to be a clumsy pirate, but Amelia could not smile because just when she had begun to believe in light again, the darkness she thought she had escaped had returned, and now it knew exactly where to find her. Amelia tried to ignore the sick feeling in her stomach for days after Mark showed up. She told herself he would disappear again, like he always had. She had seen that face before, full of promises and empty remorse. He was not here for Ethan. He was here for something else. She could feel it. Then the first message arrived. It came late at night. She was in the laundry room folding clothes when her phone buzzed. "You owe me a second chance. If you don't want to lose your son, bring me 100 grand fast." Her fingers went cold. Her breath hitched. Another message followed. "Get it from your rich friend, the CEO. He won't even notice it's gone." Amelia stared at the screen, heart pounding, her vision blurred. She deleted the messages, but they kept coming every day. More aggressive, more detailed. "You think you can hide behind him? I'll take you to court. I'll say you kept my son from me. They'll believe me. You have a soft life now. Let's see how long it lasts." She tried to stay calm around Ethan and Liam, pretending everything was normal, but inside she was unraveling. Every time her phone lit up, her stomach twisted. She slept less, ate less. Liam began to notice. He asked if she was okay. She smiled and said she was just tired. She wanted to tell him. So many times she opened her mouth, but the words stayed stuck in her throat. How could she explain that the past she never wanted to revisit had come crawling back with claws and threats? How could she put that burden on the one person who had given her peace? She feared two things. One, that Liam would get hurt. Two, that she would lose Ethan. She had worked so hard to build a life, even if it was held together with threads. She had raised Ethan alone, loved him enough for two parents, and now someone like Mark could just show up and take it all away. She met Mark once alone at a diner on the edge of town. He wore a smirk like he had already won. "You think that man will still want you if he finds out about me?" he said, leaning in close. "If he finds out how fast you ran when things got hard." Amelia kept her voice low. "I'm not giving you anything. You left. You don't get to walk back in and ask for money." Mark's smile faded. His tone turned cold. "You'll regret this. You think you can hide in that fancy house forever. If I don't get what I want, I'll make sure the courts see what kind of mother you are. No job, unstable housing history. Let's see how long you keep custody." That night, Amelia stood by Ethan's bed, brushing his hair back as he slept. Snow had started falling outside. The wind howled like it knew what was coming. She sat at the kitchen table, long after everyone had gone to bed, a pen in her hand, a piece of paper before her. She wrote slowly. Tears fell as she crossed out sentences and rewrote them. "Liam, I'm sorry. Please don't come looking for us. I had to leave. It's the only way to keep Ethan safe. Thank you for everything. You gave us more than you know. Amelia." She folded the note, placed it on the counter, then quietly packed a small bag. One change of clothes, Ethan's worn stuffed rabbit, a snack, nothing more. She lifted Ethan from his bed, wrapped him in a blanket, and pressed a kiss to his forehead. In the dead of night, with snow falling heavy and silent, Amelia walked out of Liam's house, carrying everything that mattered in her arms. No goodbye, no explanation, only fear and a mother's desperate hope to protect the one she loved most. Liam woke to an unnatural stillness. It was not the peaceful kind, but the kind that made his chest tighten. He looked at the clock. 4:13 a.m., Snow whispered. Against the windows, and the whole world outside seemed wrapped in white silence. He stepped into the hallway. Ethan's door was open. The guest room was empty. His heart dropped. The bed was made too neat. The bag Amelia always kept by the dresser was gone. So was Ethan's favorite stuffed rabbit. The air felt hollow. Then he saw it. A folded piece of paper on the kitchen counter, shaking slightly from the breeze through the cracked window. He opened it, his hands already trembling. "Liam, I had to go. Please don't come looking for us. It's not safe for Ethan here anymore. You gave us more than I ever thought we deserved. Thank you for letting me believe in something good again. Amelia." Liam stood frozen, the paper fluttering in his hand. Then he grabbed his keys and ran. Snow was falling harder now, thick flakes blinding his windshield. The roads were slick and quiet. Most of the city still slept, but he was wide awake, fueled by panic and something deeper, love. He called her phone, straight to voicemail again and again. He tried the nearby shelters, nothing. The 24-hour diners, nothing. By sunrise, he had been to 3 bus stations and 2 train depots. His knuckles were red from gripping the steering wheel. His eyes burned. At the last station on the edge of town, he rushed inside, heart pounding, and there she was. Amelia sat curled on a bench near the far wall, clutching Ethan tightly against her chest. Her coat was thin, her cheeks pale. Ethan's head rested against her shoulder, his small body wrapped in a worn blanket. Liam stood still for a moment, just staring at them. Then he walked over and dropped to his knees in front of her. She looked up, her face crumpled. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know what else to do." He threatened to take Ethan. He wanted money. "I couldn't drag you into it." Liam reached out gently, placing his hand over hers. "You were never dragging me," he said, voice thick with emotion. "I want to be in this, all of it. You, Ethan, the past, the mess. I don't care." Tears slipped down Amelia's cheeks. "I was so scared," she said. "I thought if Mark found out about us living with you, he'd ruin everything. I thought if I stayed, I'd end up losing Ethan or you." Liam shook his head. "No one is taking Ethan, and no one is taking you from me either." She opened her mouth to protest, but he leaned closer. "I love you," he said simply. "I love your strength. I love the way you care. I love the way you look at Ethan like he's the whole world. I love him too." Her breath hitched. "You don't have to protect us alone anymore," he whispered. He pulled her and Ethan into his arms. For a long time they said nothing, just held each other, while snow fell gently against the windows behind them. Later that morning, Liam made a call. By noon, a lawyer sat with him in his office, reviewing every message Mark had sent. The threats, the demands, the history. Liam filed for legal action against Mark, pressing charges for blackmail and harassment. He hired a family lawyer to ensure full protection for Ethan. The battle ahead would not be easy, but Amelia was not alone anymore. For the first time in years, she felt like someone was standing between her and the storm. That night, as Ethan slept safely in a warm bed, Amelia sat beside Liam on the couch. She leaned her head on his shoulder, eyes closed. "Thank you," she said softly. He turned to her, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "You don't ever have to thank me for loving you." She looked at him, eyes full of both relief and disbelief. "I'm still scared," she admitted. "So am I," he replied. "But I'm not going anywhere, and I won't let anyone hurt you again." She nodded, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. This time, she believed him. 1 year later, the garden behind Liam's home had never looked more beautiful. Soft white flowers lined the aisle. Fairy lights swayed from the trees. Close friends and a few family members sat in quiet anticipation, their chairs arranged beneath the golden afternoon sun. A gentle melody played from a string quartet in the corner. Then all eyes turned. At the top of the aisle stood Ethan, dressed in a little grey suit, holding Amelia's hand. In the other, he clutched a bouquet of white peonies, carefully arranged, just the way Amelia loved them. "Ready, Mommy?" Ethan whispered, beaming with pride. Amelia smiled through tears, more than ever. Together they walked down the aisle. Smiles filled the garden. But Amelia saw only one face, Liam. He stood beneath a floral arch in a navy blue suit, his eyes soft and steady. When he saw her, he let out a quiet breath, like he had been waiting to exhale for a whole year. At the end of the aisle, Ethan looked up and grinned. "Here she is, Dad." Liam knelt down, eyes glassy. "Thank you, Ethan. That means everything." The ceremony was short, intimate, and full of love. When it came time for vows, Amelia took Liam's hands in hers. Her voice trembled, then steadied. "Thank you for loving me, even when I didn't love myself. For seeing something in me I thought was gone. For choosing not just the best parts of me, but the broken ones too." Liam's voice was firm but full of warmth. "I don't just choose you, Amelia. I choose the nights you got up when it was hard. I choose every moment that brought you here. I choose Ethan. I choose our family. Today, tomorrow, always." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the garden erupted in applause. Ethan jumped up and wrapped his arms around them. "Group hug," he giggled, and everyone laughed. That evening, as the sun dipped below the trees and the last guests departed, Amelia stood barefoot in the grass, watching the lights twinkle overhead. Liam came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "This doesn't feel real," she whispered. "It is," he murmured. "And it's just the beginning." He reached out his hand. "Come on, let's go home." Ethan stood waiting on the front porch, holding both their hands as they approached the steps of the house. They now shared their home, their sanctuary. Together, they walked toward the open door, hand in hand, the past behind them, a new chapter ahead. As they stepped into the doorway, The light spilled across the floor, warm and golden, lighting the way forward. Not perfect, but full of love. And finally whole. Floor, warm and golden, lighting the way forward. A story that began with heartbreak had ended with healing. From a crowded airport to a quiet garden. From fear to forever, Amelia, Liam, and little Ethan found more than a home. They found a second chance at love, trust, and belonging. Because sometimes life brings people back into your world, not by accident, but by fate. And when it does, what you have to do is open the door. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and hit that subscription button to support Chetnal Stories, where every tale is crafted to remind you that love always finds a way. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.